Happy Thanksgiving to my football fans, grid, iron, gamblers, and all of my degenerates. It's Mitch here with your Thanksgiving and Black Friday best bets. In this video, I'm going to give you one best bet for each and every Thanksgiving and Black Friday football game. If that sounds good, Gronk, spike the like button, and don't be a jabroni. Subscribe to the channel for all of my NFL picks and best bets every week of the NFL season. I'm going to break down one play that I love, one best bet that I love to help you win some money while you're eating some turkey. But on top of that, I'll add in some alternatives that I think are pretty interesting as well, just in case you want to bet one more time, one extra on the card, because I know I will be. So let's kick it off with the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions, the first game on Thanksgiving. And let me know in the comments, guys, where you agree and disagree with my picks. If you're curious what I'm betting on Thanksgiving, hit up the Patreon. Link in the description. Link is in the pinned comment. $5 a month for all of my bets every week of the NFL season. The Packers and the Lions. My best bet is not the spread. I think the Lions win. I don't think they get swept by the Packers. It's not the total. I kind of lean towards the under, because I do believe the defensive lines have the advantages over the offensive lines in this game. But my best bet is Christian Watson over 3.5 receptions at plus 115. It's also Christian Watson over 52.5 receiving yards. Or basically Christian Watson to dominate this game as a receiver. Christian Watson has played the Lions on Thanksgiving before. 2023. He had 5 catches for 94 yards and a touchdown. If you're paying attention to those numbers, that would be an over for receptions, an over for yards, and a touchdown, if you want to bet that as well. Although I don't advise that, but hey, why not? Why not, man? Why not? The last time Christian Watson played the Detroit Lions, late last season, he had 4 catches for 114 yards. Christian Watson loves to play the Lions. And the biggest reason why I like Christian Watson versus the Lions is the predictability of the Lions defense. The Lions play man coverage. And honestly, that's a good way to approach the Packers. The Packers do not have a lot of good receivers that can actually separate and get open. I think it's part of the problem with their team, especially without Tucker Kraft. It also helps them defend the screen game, the RPO game, and the run game of the Packers, which is so efficient and honestly their most effective way of offense, at least in the past. The run game of the Packers has not been that great this year. Now, the Packers might get back Jayden Reed. Fair, fine. Jayden Reed is not a good man-to-man receiver, especially off of major injuries, and I don't think he's going to play that high of a snap share. So I wouldn't really expect him to take away from Christian Watson's production. Looking back at the last couple of games for Christian Watson, the most interesting part about it to me is the fact that he had 5 catches and 4 catches the last 2 games. But in particular, against the Vikings, he went over 3.5. And the reason I bring that up is because Jordan Love literally did not have to participate in the game, and he still went over 3.5. Because the Vikings didn't have an offense or a quarterback. And the Packers still targeted Christian Watson at a fairly high rate. He led the team in catches and receiving yards in that game. Something to think about as they get ready to play the biggest game of their season against the Lions, a team that plays a lot of man coverage. Christian Watson is the 15th best receiver in the NFL against man coverage this year in yards per route run. He has also been top 10 in that metric the last 3 years. He's also the best man coverage beater on the Packers by a country mile. The next best receiver against man coverage is 54th in yards per route run. That is rookie Matthew Golden, who barely sees the field. Wicks is 55th. And as you can see, Romeo Doubs isn't even on the screen. Romeo Doubs is not good against man. Neither is Jaden Reed. Christian Watson is the guy. That's why he plays so well against the Lions. That's really why. And when you look at his production, right, he had 85 yards in his first game back against the Steelers, and he's been flirting with around 50 yards in every other game. 58, 45, 46, 49, right? And I think he might have his best game yet against the Lions. He has games of 94 yards, 104 yards, and 114 yards against the Lions. So he's had 3 really good games in his career against this team. And actually, he's had a really good season coming back from the ACL. He is 10th in Pro Football Focus grade this season at wide receiver. So Christian Watson looks good, can beat man coverage, is healthy. There's no real target volume, target hogs around him. Tucker Kraft is hurt. Doubs can't separate. Wicks and Golden aren't in the trust tree. Jacobs is kind of banged up, so even the run game is questionable. Love needs someone to throw to against man-to-man because the Lions are going to do it. And Watson is the guy. And I don't think anyone on the Lions can run with Watson. DJ Reed is too small. Terrion Arnold is too slow. Amik Robertson is probably too small and too slow. I don't see anyone on their team that can match up with Christian Watson. He's an elite separator. He's got elite speed, elite size. He's been mossing people in the end zone against the New York Giants, mossing people against the Pittsburgh Steelers in prime time. He's been coming up big, and he's been their best receiver. And I think last week, finally, Matt LaFleur started to feature him a little bit more within the offense. This is a boom game for Christian Watson. I'm going over 3.5 receptions at plus 115 as the best bet, but I'd also take over 52.5 receiving yards and sprinkle on 75 plus receiving yards because he's done that 3 times in his career against the Lions. He's actually gone over 90 3 times in his career, including once on Thanksgiving. So our first bet is Christian Watson overs. Now, I also think an alternative is Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs, 75 plus rushing yards is minus 105. I think currently the Packers' run defense is a little overrated. And Jahmyr Gibbs is playing like the best running back in football right now. That's kind of undeniable. He's also the guy that literally saved the day against the Giants. If not for Jahmyr Gibbs going Barry Sanders, I feel like they lose that game. 75 yards for Gibbs is doable in 2 runs. Rico Dowdle had 130 yards against the Packers not that long ago, and Tracy of the Giants had 88 yards against the Packers. So I feel like it's very doable for Jahmyr Gibbs to be able to get 75. If the Lions can't get 75 yards from Gibbs, they're going to lose. Am I wrong? So if you think the Lions are going to win or have a good chance to win, Gibbs essentially has to hit 75 yards, which makes it a bet. So minus 105 is a pretty good price. I would take Gibbs 75 plus yards. So Watson and Gibbs would be my 2 best bets. I would lean the under. I would lean the Lions, but I'm not going to make that a best bet for the video. The next game is the Kansas City Chiefs and the Dallas Cowboys. And I have quite a few different looks for this game, and I contemplated a lot of different things. I think a lot of people are going to like the over in this game. And I think this is going to be a very public over because people see Patrick Mahomes and they know George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, and it's in a dome and it's Dallas. And everyone's going to want to expect points. I'm going to take the under 52. Now, I actually think there could be a chance that if you wait until Sunday, there will be public money that pushes this up. So I would even wait. I don't know if I said Sunday. Obviously, it's not Sunday. Thursday, okay? Wait until game time until you bet this. Like, closer to game time, I think the better, because I don't think this is going to move down. I think there's going to be a lot of public money on the over. So I kind of like the under. 52 is a high number, okay? Dallas, as high scoring as they are, has gone under 52 in 3 straight games. Kansas City has gone under in 6 straight games. Under 52, okay? Now, there's 2 crucial offensive line injuries, one for each side. Tyler Guyton, left tackle of the Dallas Cowboys, pretty good player, is out. But even more significantly, Trey Smith, an all-pro guard, is out for the Chiefs. That really hurts pass protection on big downs. And that also hurts the Chiefs' run game significantly. The Chiefs also are missing Noah Gray, which is a small injury, but it does take away the personnel variation from the Chiefs. A lot less 12 with 2 tight ends and a lot more 11 with 3 receivers. So it takes away the Chiefs' ability to run the ball, takes away the Chiefs' ability to create mismatches. Noah Gray is one of those sneaky, not like highly productive players, but like kind of good, important players that will affect the offense. Kansas City has only scored 30 points 3 times this year, and that was against the injured Ravens, the injured Lions, and the Raiders. So keep that in mind. But mainly, I look at a couple of matchups here for why I think the game will go under. First of all, I think Dallas's defense is very underrated at this point. Dallas, since they acquired Quinnen Williams and Logan Wilson, are a different defense. They also got back their 2 starting safeties, Donovan Wilson and Malik Hooker. And I've been stressing to everyone that will hear me about why it's a better defense. Demarion Overshone, the best linebacker on the team, has also returned from injury. So they have a completely different front 7. Quinnen Williams is a gravitational pull player. He demands 4 hands on him at all times. He demands a double team. The Dallas Cowboys now have one of the best interior defensive lines in football. Quinnen Williams, who is the top-graded run defender in the sport at his position, coupled with Kenny Clark, a good player, and a really good pass rusher in Odighizuwa, who sealed the game against Jalen Hurts and the Eagles last week. That is one of the best, if not the best, trio of defensive tackles in football. Keep in mind what I said earlier. Trey Smith of the Chiefs is out. A guard. So, interior pressure on the Chiefs. Don't be surprised if Mahomes is running for his life on 3rd down because of the interior defensive line push that the Cowboys are able to create. They also have very athletic edge rushers like Dante Fowler, Ezeraku, Jadeveon Clowney, Sam Williams, all that can run and chase down and track down Patrick Mahomes if he escapes the pocket from the edges. Clowney has played really well as well as Ezeraku. These guys are playing really good football right now. And I think that Dallas is a really strong run defense since they've acquired Quinnen Williams because they can play a lot bigger up front with Williams, Odighizuwa, and Kenny Clark. Clark and Williams have always been great against the run, as well as Jadeveon Clowney. So they have a much better defensive line against the run. Logan Wilson has played the Chiefs many times as a member of the Bengals, is a smart, instinctive linebacker, and Overshone is a freak show running sideline to sideline that should be able to scoop up yards after catch from Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce, or any of the screens that the Chiefs are looking for. So I think Dallas's defense is very underrated. Now, they do have susceptibilities at corner, but they play a lot of zone, and they don't really allow big plays. Mahomes will have to kind of like dink and dunk his way down the field, which he's perfectly fine with. But as well, if Dallas does get a little testy, Mahomes has been missing a lot of deep shots down the field. So I feel like they'll be able to take some calculated risks at times. I look at the other side of the football field with the Chiefs defense, and first of all, you're counting on Steve Spagnuolo. I never hate doing that. Second of all, Chris Jones played exceptional football last week. And then third, they have a cornerback tandem that I think is uniquely suited to slow down George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. So Trent McDuffie is probably one of the 3 best corners in the NFL at like tracking a receiver from the inside to the outside of the formation, and probably the best in the NFL at playing rather nickel or perimeter corner. McDuffie can handle CeeDee Lamb no matter where he lines up. Now, I'm not saying he'll eliminate him from the game, but I do believe that McDuffie can minimize CeeDee Lamb's impact. Then you have Jalen Watson, who's a good perimeter corner, he doesn't have the speed that Pickens has, and Pickens will make some plays on him, but he's very long and tall, and he can match the size and physicality of George Pickens, I think. So I believe that they have 2 guys that are uniquely suited to match up with the 2 monster receivers that Dallas has, which means Dallas is probably going to have to run the ball more in this game and feature Ferguson at tight end more in this game. So I look at both sides, problems with the Chiefs' offensive line potentially in this game, and a lack of a run game because I don't think they're going to be able to run on Dallas. And then I believe that the Chiefs' corners and the Chiefs' schematical advantage on defense with Steve Spagnuolo is going to provide a little bit of problems for Dak Prescott. So despite being in a dome, despite Dak and Mahomes, I do think 52 is a very high number, and I could see this game more landing around 50 or 51, maybe even 48, somewhere in that range. I think this is going to be like a 27-24, which would just go under, or maybe even what we saw last week between Dallas and Philly, 24-21. If I am really right about the Dallas Cowboys defense being a lot better than people think, I think this is a good bet based on the way Dallas has been tracking lately, 3 straight under 52s, and it hasn't really been that close in that regard. Chiefs offense, I think, is also a little overrated, especially in their red zone production. Okay, so that's the main bet, would be under 52. But then after that, we have some prop bets that I do want to throw out there. I don't want to make prop bets a best bet for everyone because I know that some people don't like making prop bets. So I kind of want to balance it out for you guys. But there is 2 players that I look at on Dallas, as I've mentioned already, that I think could have pretty good games here. And that's their tight end Ferguson and their running back Javonte Williams. First of all, Javonte Williams at 64.5 rushing yards is a pretty good price, considering he's rushed for 87, 93, and 83 in his last 3 games. That's a lot more than 64. And the only game in which he went under was against the Denver Broncos in Denver, a truly elite defense. And then the game previous to that, he had 116 against Washington. So he has been going off consistently this year. He's gone over 64.5, 8 of his 11 games as a Dallas Cowboy. It's a pretty good track record. Now, the reason I think Javonte will have over is because I think Kansas City, because of Pickens and Lamb, despite their corners, is going to have to play pretty conservative in coverage. I don't think they're going to really be able to sell out to stop the run. The Chiefs can stop the run when they are prepared to stop the run. But I think the pick your poison in this game is to try to not allow Pickens and Lamb to beat you and allow Javonte Williams to beat you. So I think they're going to force Dallas to be patient with the run game, and Spags is going to play a lot of light boxes, which is going to allow Javonte Williams to run the football. So that's why I would take over 64.5. Also, Javonte has a lot of attempts in every game. Even when they were down last week against the Eagles, he still had a good game. Like, I think he had like 80 yards, like 17, 18 carries off the top of my head. That's a pretty good, amount of attempts for a guy that was trailing 21-0. Right? So Javonte Williams, I think, is a good solid over no matter the game script. And then Jake Ferguson, their tight end, 34.5 yards seems very low for a pretty damn good tight end. He's gone over 34.5 this year 6 times. And like I said, I think the focus of Spagnuolo will be to slow down Pickens and slow down Lamb, which means there's going to be one-on-ones for Ferguson. So Ferguson has some interesting props here. Minus 115 over 34.5 receiving yards. 40 plus receiving yards is at plus 120, and 50 plus is at 220, which is the one I might bet myself. Okay. He's had 50 and 60 yards in 2 of his last 3 games. Okay. So he's still been pretty productive in the offense, even with Lamb and Pickens in there. He's a good player, and they set him up for screens. They could against the blitz of the Chiefs when they think it's timely, as well as he's a 3rd down producer. And the Chiefs don't have a great tight end stopper like Chamari Connor. Their safeties are bleh. I don't really think they're great. So if they do play man to man, I think that Ferguson can beat his matchup, and I also feel like if they play zone, Ferguson is really good at finding those soft spots, and Dak and him have a really good rapport. So either way, I think Ferguson and Javonte are really strong looks here in a game because I think it's going to be a lot of the offenses dinking and dunking their way down the field, and or in Dallas's case, balance down the field. I think there will be limited explosives in this game. I like the running back and the tight end to produce. Also, I'd like to just shout out Kelsey to score a touchdown at plus 120 is probably fairly likely on Thanksgiving, especially if Taylor Swift's there. But I'm just going to show that. I'm just going to throw that out there. Okay. I'm not going to make that a best bet, but I'm going to throw that out there. Okay. The Thursday night game, the nightcap, is the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals and the return of Joe Burrow. Now, I personally would lean towards the under 51.5, but I'm not going to make that a best bet because I'm not betting on an under with the Cincinnati defense. Like, I'm not an idiot. That being said, the Baltimore Ravens have gone under this number in 6 straight games, and Baltimore's offense is probably pretty overrated at this point. They're not playing very well. They didn't play well against the Jets. And the Bengals defense has improved since the bye week against the Patriots and the Steelers. And I would also argue that Baltimore's defense has significantly improved as well. And Joe Burrow is probably going to be rusty. So if I had to make a bet on a total or a spread, I would go under 51.5. Very high number for that game. Okay. But I have 2 props for you that I like more. First is Chase Brown over 52.5 rushing yards at minus 115. Chase Brown has gone over this number in 4 of his last 5 games. Okay. 107 yards against New England, who previously had not allowed a rusher over 70 yards or 60 yards or something like that. They allowed 100 yards to Chase Brown. Pittsburgh, 99 yards and 108 yards. And then the Jets, he ran for 73 yards. So 4 out of his last 5 games, he's been damn good running the football. He had 18 carries and 19 carries the last 2 games he's played. So nearly 20 carries to get 52 yards, 53 yards. That's a lot of work. He never really comes off the field. And when you're looking at Baltimore's run defense, they haven't really been tested in a while because they've been getting early leads against teams like the Jets. Well, actually, they didn't get it against the Jets. The Jets had a fair amount of opportunities, but I believe Breece Hall went for around 50 yards on the ground. But the thing is with the Jets is everyone is selling out to stop the run because they have Tyrod Taylor and John Mechie. I mean, you're not selling out to stop the run against Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. You're probably going to let the run happen a little bit more, right? And that's part of the success of the Cincinnati run game. I just really like how Chase Brown looks. As a Patriots fan watching him last week, I thought he was electric. And then I just feel like a lot of defenses are kind of conceding the run against Cincinnati because they're like, beat us on the ground. Like, we don't want to give up plays to T. Higgins or Jamar Chase or anyone like that. Mike Gesicki is there now too. But the Ravens, they haven't really been tested in a minute. Like, Aaron Jones kind of ran for a good yards per carry. So did Jordan Mason, but they didn't really have the attempts because they fell behind. But the Ravens are 22nd in yards per carry allowed. They're 20th in yards allowed to the ground, and they're 18th in rush EPA. So overall, like from an average perspective, they're a mediocre to below average run defense that doesn't have Madubuike in the middle any longer. And they're more likely to play a lot of cover 2 and too high against this team in the Bengals because of Jamar Chase, who has beat the Ravens for like 200 yards a game, it feels like, over the last 3-4 years. So they're scared to death of Jamar Chase, which is going to lead to Chase Brown to going over 52.5, which is my best bet for this game. Alternatively, I also like Isaiah Likely for the Ravens. Isaiah Likely at 26.5 receiving yards, I think could have a pretty big game. I was considering Mark Andrews, but Likely has better yard metrics, like better overall odds, in my opinion. Like 26, I think Andrews is pretty high, actually, 41, 42, and he hasn't really accomplished that many times this year. But the point with Likely is the Bengals are the worst team against tight ends in football. They allow the most receptions in the NFL. They allow the most yards in the NFL. Last week, Hunter Henry had over 100 yards against Cincinnati. Okay. Likely is sitting at only 26.5 receiving yards for this game. And he's had 3+ targets in 4 straight games. He is considered the tight end 2, obviously, or maybe even the tight end 3. When you look at some of the other teams that Cincinnati has played, Jeremy Ruckert, Colston Loveland, Darnell Washington, Austin Hooper, all of these guys did well against this team. So not only do tight end ones do good, but tight ends two do well. Okay? And that's because their safeties are bad and their linebackers are terrible. And they're really bad in coverage. Okay? So the bet would be Isaiah Likely over 26.5 receiving yards, and I'd consider over 2.5 receptions, minus 110. So I think Likely will have his best game of the season in this game against the team that allows the most yards and the most receptions to tight ends. This is going to be a heavy play action game, in my opinion, for Lamar Jackson. So that is the Thursday night Thanksgiving matchup. Then on Friday, Black Friday football, we have the Eagles and the Bears. My play for this is going to be simple. I'm taking the Bears +7. Okay? The Bears have played in 4 straight one-score games. And they have a couple matchups that I like about this game. And I also just think simply the Eagles are a fade right now. The Eagles cannot score points consistently. They have lulls in games where they punt, they punt, they punt, they punt, they punt. They fall asleep on offense, which gives you many opportunities with 7 points, even on the road, to cover a spread. So the Bears are going to have plenty of opportunities. Even if I don't love their defense, they are getting reinforcements. Jalen Johnson, a top 10 corner in the NFL, is back. And Kyler Gordon, probably a top 10 nickel in the NFL, is also back. I also love how the Bears safeties are playing. Brisker, Byard, and CJ Gardner-Johnson, who they signed not that long ago, are all playing pretty well. And then on top of that, I like how Wright is playing on the outside as well. He's making plays on the ball. This is a defense that does turn the football over and will force a mistake or two from the Eagles to maybe help them score some points in this game. And then I really like the coaching matchup here. Ben Johnson is a brilliant coach and a brilliant schemer that I think a lot higher of than Nick Sirianni. He is just not a very good coach. Dennis Allen is a really good defensive coach facing a really simple offensive system with like 5 or 6 plays that the Eagles seemingly run. The Eagles also have potentially 2 highly impactful offensive injuries. We're unsure about Devontae Smith, but he has yet to really practice this week and has multiple injuries that could keep him out. Devontae Smith is a really good player, and if they miss him, that's really going to hurt their passing game. Lane Johnson, check the record of Jalen Hurts without him. He's unlikely to play as well, as he has not practiced this week. Andrew Makuba, their starting rookie safety, is also on IR. So they have 3 pretty big injuries to 3 starters across the board. It does appear that Adoree Jackson will play, but I don't really know if that's a big deal, to be honest with you. I think the bigger deal is that the Bears have the superior coaching. The Bears are getting reinforcements in the secondary, which is going to allow them to kind of sell out to stop Saquon if they want. And especially if Devontae Smith is out, that's probably going to allow Dennis Allen to be pretty creative in his blitzes and pretty creative in just overall his ability to play coverage, because he could probably trust Jalen Johnson a lot of the time on A.J. Brown and then kind of just take his chances with guys like Jahan Dotson and I don't know who else, Dallas Goedert, I guess. But I look at it as like the Bears might load up the box, slow down the run early in the game, force Jalen to throw on the outside and be consistent. And then I think eventually they'll catch on to what the Eagles are doing. He'll make his adjustments. I think he'll have some good red zone calls, some good third down calls situationally, Dennis Allen, some good blitz calls situationally. And I do believe that eventually the Eagles will slow down offensively as they always do. The Bears will be able to play catch up if they need to. But I think the Bears have a really strong running game. The Bears have a lot of weapons. DJ Moore, Colston Loveland, right? You look at Roma Dunze, Luther Burden, and Ben Johnson's calling plays. This is a premier primetime game where he's probably going to have a trick play or two for Vic Fangio's defense. And the biggest thing of them all is the Bears have an interior offensive line that is one of the best in the league. You have Joe Thuney, who's a Hall of Famer, Drew Dahlman, who's a top 5 center in football, and Jonah Jackson. That's an elite interior O-line that's opened up their run game, and you can trust them blocking Jalen Carter. You can trust them blocking Jordan Davis, Ajomo, that interior defensive line that is so destructive and impactful in a lot of these Eagles games that they win, right? So I think Caleb Williams doesn't turn it over. Him and Jalen Hurts are pretty similar in terms of the way they play. their escapability, their rushing ability. I think Caleb, he's very erratic, but Jalen Hurts also, he's a little inconsistent. Like, he has his moments, and then so they're not too far off as quarterbacks right now. The Eagles' offense is a mess. They haven't really proven to me, the Eagles, that they can run the ball, especially without Lane Johnson. And I do think the Bears, with their return of their corners, will be better suited to stop the run because I think they'll be able to sell out more resources to stop it. And then I think if Devontae Smith is out, that's really going to hinder the big plays of the Eagles down the field, where they've been making all of their big plays and all of their real drives has been A.J. Brown down the field, one-on-one, Devontae Smith, one-on-one. Like, they have not been a Saquon run team this year. So I like the Bears to stay in this game. I think the Eagles can win, no doubt about it. They should win, but I think 7 is too many points. The Bears play a lot of close games, and they do have the superior coaching. I'll take Chicago on Black Friday +7. Those are my best bets for Thanksgiving football in 2025. If you enjoyed, spike the like button. Don't be a jabroni and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.